Hi, now you all can hear me. So, very good evening to everyone, and thank you for being here today. And we are going to discuss the big scam that shook the nation, and also many other scams that I don't know did they shake us or not. But then we've had a series of many scams right after independence. I'm really glad to be joined by Barkha, Rasheed, and Prakash. Thank you all for being here, and let's discuss the various scams that happened. And we wish there were not many scams, but we can't wish away the scams. India has had a fair share of scams right after independence. I mean, I remember right in 1948, there was that Jeep scam where Krishna Menon was involved. In London, he was a high commissioner, and the Jeeps were ordered about 2,000, but only 500 of them landed actually. And that was that scam, and that was an ideological period. India had just attained freedom, and to think of a scam then, it actually troubled people. It kind of it was very not a good thing to happen then. But later also there were many scams, and some of us have forgotten some of them. Many have gone out of public memory. But today we'll try to jog our memory and remember some of them before we forget many, because a lot of times no punishments take place. People forget about it. The politicians are back in power. The Nagarwala scam that Rasheed and Prakash Patra have written about is one such scam which happened in the 70s. And the book is That Scam That Shook the Nation. Many of us here today were probably very young, or probably some of us were not born. So I don't know how shaken we were then, but it's good to remember now what really happened in the Nagarwala scam. It's actually called the scam that was never fully explained. So Rashid, I want to begin by talking about this book, and Prakash, you too. When we think of this scam, this was probably very shocking that the Prime Minister's voice was impersonated by someone who calls up the SBI chief manager and actually manages to siphon off 60 lakh rupees. It was a huge sum then in the 70s, in 71. And the person who does that, who carries the money, actually thinks that he's being very patriotic and he's actually serving the nation by doing that. Remember, it was that Bangladesh war period and that whole patriotism thing. So what actually came across? How did you come across this book now? Why did you think of writing it now? And what new did you find?
Yes. So I think you've raised many issues, very pertinent and important issues. We must also remember what 71 was like. It was a political in terms. It was the age of innocence, in the sense that there was very kind of biased relationship that was there between politicians and voter or public at large. There were not many scams were there. People were trusted. This was much before emergency and all kind of upheavals and ayaram gayaram culture, political defections, intrigue and use or misuse of various central agencies, etc. So it was and therefore this was very significant that such a thing happened, that 60 lakh rupees, actually we have mentioned in the book, we have got it in real terms conversion. It would have been worth 172 crore rupees of today. So big scam. It was a very poor reflection on the banking system that somebody could get away. I would not get into great detail because I would want all of you present here to read it, and it makes a very interesting reading. So and it happened, and somebody could impersonate Indira Gandhi's voice and get away. People were caught and they were sort of punished, and a commission of inquiry by the opposite side, in the sense the Morarji Desai government, Janata Party government, and that commission of inquiry in a sense gave clean chit to Indira Gandhi. Still there were a lot of questions that are unanswered. So we've tried to write this book. Mr. Patra was of course very sort of active player in that we must write from a politically neutral point of view. It is very easy, and in today's world, the way we all are from media, it's very easy to see things in black and white. But then that's not exactly job of a researcher or a writer and all, because there's a lot of shade of gray. There are a lot of theories are there. There are a lot of questions that have remained unanswered. So therefore, we thought that this must come out, because the young generation, and I see many faces here, the young generation must know what had happened in the past and the things that have been have remained largely unresolved.
Yeah, but Rasheed, you wrote this book at a time when the elections were taking place, and had the BJP or the opposition laid their hands on this book, and if you had the book launch then, it would have been really interesting.
It was released after the elections.
After the election.
Yeah.
And was that deliberate?
Yeah, it was.
So, but you've covered the Congress so closely. You followed the story, and to be very neutral and come up with this book now. But Prakash, what new answers did you get? We all know briefly about the Nagarwala scam, and it is one of the scams that really intrigues people even now.
No, we thought that it was a case of political corruption, but as we researched the subject, we realized that it was not. He was a con man, basically, essentially, to tell you a story in short. And Mrs. Gandhi was not involved in it. That's what it comes out. Once you go through the papers, then you realize that she wasn't guilty. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So that's a definite answer,
Yeah.
that she wasn't.
Yeah.
Barkha, would you like to join in? And, Mrs. Gandhi was not involved. That's what Prakash Patra says. But this book also raises many questions, and that entire scam still has many questions. And a security breach in those days to be impersonating the PM.
It's Rasheed and Prakash's book, and it's a brilliant book. I kind of, as a journalist, knew the headline, but when I started reading it, I discovered so many twists and turns. I'm sure it's going to be the next political whodunit. But just one thing, this idea of someone impersonating Indira Gandhi. Now we're talking about back in the day when people actually had landlines, and someone actually puts a lady on the phone who says she's Indira Gandhi, which is how, I won't give away too much, which is how the scam unfolds. But think about it, that actually not much has changed, because today, artificial intelligence is used to do exactly the same thing. And how many of us have got those messages saying you haven't paid your electricity bill, you haven't paid your gas bill? There was a story recently about somebody who got a call saying your son is in jail, he's been picked up by the Mumbai police, please transfer this money, and the parents just did it. So more things change, the more they remain the same. I will leave it to Rasheed and Prakash to talk about the book, but to talk about scams, I was a bit late coming here today because what I thought would be a relaxed Sunday turned into a crazy and sad news day, because you had 3 young kids who were studying to join the IAS, and the basement of their coaching institute got flooded, as many of our basements do, and presumably an electrocution followed, and they died. And why am I calling it a scam? Because we now know that the NOC given by the fire department was violated by this coaching institute, which, by the way, is one of India's oldest IAS training institute called Rao's Study Circle. We now know that there was a complaint filed about the basement by the students in June, which was ignored. We now know that calls for help were made by the students at 6:40 in the evening, and the help didn't come till 9 in the evening. And finally, the image that really stays with me today, because all the young students are protesting, and one kid had a placard and it said, "The dream is dead." I was just so sad. And I think that scams come at us so fast in the news business that we're in, that public memory becomes short, and instead of scams shaking the nation, we just move from scam to scam. So if you think about the last month, and look at what young people have gone through. You've had allegations of cheating in the medical entrance exam called NEET. You've had a lady called Pooja Khedkar who has basically faked her disability certificate and her caste status. And how did that scam get discovered? Because she wanted a little lal batti on her Audi car, right? And now you have this. So there's no dearth of scams. I think the challenge is we are not shaken or stirred anymore. I don't know, maybe we've just become jaded. Cynical.
Absolutely. That's what I wonder, that we probably are not shaken at all. Are we really shaken by these scams? Because every other, now and then, we have a new scam coming up. So, and the public memory is really, really short. And Rasheed...
And we shouldn't take away from this fascinating story.
Yeah,
I just think
Nagarwala.
it should be left to the authors to talk about their story, and I shouldn't take over that.
We'll come to other scams as well. I remember when we launched Barkha, the NDTV channel, we had the Telgi scam, and that was a story that we broke on the channel, and we we were at it, it was our exclusive. Then it was the Harshit Mehta scam. And there have been so many scams. When I was actually going through the book and looking at the other scams, I'm like, I was wondering, there have been so many scams that we have really forgotten. And it's like revising all those scams. But what really happens? These scams happen one after the other. What were the repercussions? Did any of the scam, was there any big shake-up? Were people shaken enough? Were there punishments? I remember the Chara Ghotala, the fodder scam, for example, Rashid,
would know, yeah.
I mean, I would be coming from Bihar. We've all seen, and there was this popular saying that, you remember Barkha, jab tak hai samose mein aloo, Bihar mein rahega lalu. But then this Chara scam, Chara Ghotala, he landed up in jail. But probably one of the few scams that actually saw a politician going to the jail. A lot of times,
Yes,
we
yes.
just forget
In
about
case
it.
of Mr. Chauthala also, that teacher recruitment scam, he was went to jail. But largely, you see, it's a very big, it's actually a PhD topic, what you're talking about, scams in India and various dimensions
There
of
will
it.
be a scam in the PhD exam.
Probably, yeah. So, but in nutshell, as I see it as a political journalist, and that largely it has to do, of course, it's also about lust and greed and all those things, that emotions, but largely it has to do with the kind of political system we have. We have an extremely corrupt political system, and it's unfortunate that nothing has been done. You look at the kind of, poll expenses ceiling for assembly elections in states, it's about 45-50 lakh rupees, and it's been enhanced. And for parliament election, it is 75 lakh rupees. So imagine in every, in 543 Lok Sabha constituencies, 4 journalists are sitting there, and then, of course, all of you know, you have deep roots in society, and you see how elections in Haryana or Punjab or Delhi take place. Oh, political parties, not a political party, parties are spending 10 times, 50 times, perhaps 100 times more. Where is this money coming from? And that is a root cause of all those corruption in political parties, in political system. And we have had, 14 prime ministers and various political parties, some very clean, not so clean, all kind of, names and tags they come, but they have done very little to change this sort of corrupt political system. I think that's and public sensitivity, the institutions, we take great pride in being, becoming a developed nation and all, but I think at the institutional level, the kind of accountability that banking system or the judiciary or law enforcing agencies, and of course, Parliament of India, they must be having, that is grossly lacking. And third comes, of course, the voters. They are extremely casual and indifferent. Some of the things, Naghma, you would remember, actually some of the, so to say, people who were tainted or who were involved in scam, they actually came back to power. And in that, there was a telecom scam where Pandit Sukhram was involved, where he was caught in a bed, it had all the currency notes. And
The pillows were stuffed with currency
and he
notes.
won twice, he won after that scam. And of course, we have Jayalalitha's example, Lalu Prasad Yadav's example, all kind of thing. So this tells you that as a nation, actually, what Barkha was saying, that we are little insensitive and indifferent.
Prakash?
Same.
We are.
See, in another case.
Has it affected the politicians
No, it
involved?
hasn't. It hasn't.
Any repercussions that
It
you've
has-
seen?
No, forget Bofors.
Yeah.
You go to, Ghulam Muhammad Bakshi.
Ji.
When he was J&K Chief Minister, there was a commission of inquiry. It found him guilty. So Jammu Kashmir government, they passed a law saying that he can't hold the office. He was disqualified. But at the center, he could contest the elections in 1967 and become an MP. So depended on political establishment, the willpower of the political executive. So it's not that commissions of inquiry, they make recommendations. Even in this case, like in Nagarwala case, on the banking side, whatever recommendations they had done, they implemented that. So we can't say that, these are, governments are immune to these kind of things. When specific recommendations have come, it has been left to the government to implement it. They have done it. Another thing, in Jeep scandal, I'll tell you. Yeah. It is not Jeep scandal. There are 3 cases. There was that time we had problems with Kashmir, Pakistan on Kashmir issue. So we had also placed orders for rifles and other equipment. The same firm didn't deliver. There are 3 cases. And Krishna Menon was made a minister in 1956.
Yeah.
But during the Jeep scandal, there was an employee in the embassy who had misplaced or pilfered or something 1,000 rupees worth postal stamps on Mahatma Gandhi. Poor fellow was arrested and jailed there. So two different sets of rules. One for the executive, one for the politicians.
Yeah, but it's interesting, no? Back then, when we're talking of these scam, like the Jeep scam, or I remember Arjun Singh's father was also jailed. He got the punishment. Yeah. So at least there were punishments then. But what happens now? There were very few cases now when actually somebody is punished for these scams.
No, Arjun Singh's father was not punished in a scam. He was jailed.
He was jailed.
He was jailed. There was a criminal case.
Okay.
But Arjun Singh, in Churhat lottery, nothing happened to him.
But also, you remember the LIC scam when Feroz Gandhi,
That is,
Feroz Gandhi
Mundra
exposed the Mundra scam.
Mundra scam.
So Feroz Gandhi exposed it.
He exposed it and Titi Krishnamachari had to leave.
Resign.
He had to resign. And even our finance secretary, I'm forgetting his name, H.M. Patel. Remember that H.M. Patel he headed the commission that split our resources between India and Pakistan. He has done a human's job when it comes to partition on that period. He was also punished, H.M. Patel.
In Mundra case, yeah.
In Mundra case. And TTK left, but yes, he came back. Nehru brought him back after 4 or 5 years.
So
came as finance minister.
Yeah, the Nehru government and Feroz Gandhi exposes this. It also shows the kind of the honesty.
It all
and
depended on the political leadership.
Yeah. Barkha?
No, I personally think that you can't predict when a scam is going to have political consequence and when there is a kind of Teflon quality to the leader who is accused, the leader in quotes, the public figure, the politician accused of it. Think about it. The biggest controversy attached to Rahul Gandhi a few years ago was that he wanted to pardon an ordinance that had been passed by his own government to allow people like Lalu Prasad Yadav, right, a kind of new lease of political life. Now, there are so many ways to look at the issue. Did Rahul Gandhi show immaturity by being publicly rebellious against his own prime minister? Yes. But was Rahul Gandhi on the right side of the debate? Yes. Should Rahul Gandhi have been inside of government and be raising these issues instead of behaving like a dilettante outside? Yes. But was he actually taking the correct place against corruption? Yes. But what did he get judged more for? For trying to alter easy pass for corrupt politicians, or for showing that kind of, a little bit entitled immaturity? I think the second. So I guess the question for everybody here is, does corruption really influence electoral choices? And by the way, I want to say again and again, because we're moving a little bit away from the book, it is about a scam, yes, but it's also like a political thriller. There are many twists and turns in it, and I think it might be good, before we get into contemporary politics, if you tell us a little bit of the story.
Yeah. Just give us a little bit of the story.
Like Barkha, as Pranab Mukherjee used to say, the taste of pudding is in eating. So I would again request...
like in TV language, please give it.
Read the book. But in a nutshell, what Barkha is saying, what had actually happened on the 24th of May, 1971, that the chief cashier of State Bank of India, Parliament Street, receives a call, and the caller identifies himself as Haksar, who's principal secretary to the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, and says Indira Gandhi will talk, and then a woman's voice comes in. Now the cashier's response, the Bhakti Kal part 1, and he says, Namaste Mataji.
He actually
so
gets up.
he gets up on the chair, and and then he says, and she says that for Bangladesh war is going on, and there is you go there across the road, there is this Freemason church is there, and there will be a person, and you identify yourself as that person. Will come and ask you, will give you a code that मैं Bangladesh का बाबू, and you say that I'm bar at law, and there was some other code was there. So now comes the critical thing, that all this, somebody maybe was doing prank or a serious crime was being committed, but what was the job of, what was the standard operating procedure for a chief cashier? And that is where a lot of questions are being raised. I think, but just to what Barkha was saying, I was just thinking, see, corruption, allegations of corruption are many. I think our political class raises a lot of questions against one another, but the system doesn't provide answers to those questions, whether it was Beaufort scandal or several other scandals. Just, Barkha, I just want to draw your attention towards another side of this corruption in high places. What happened in case of Mr. A.R. Antule? Mr. Antule was the Chief Minister of Maharashtra. There was a scandal, a cement scandal, Indra Pratishthan, and he was removed as Chief Minister. And I think after 20 years or so, judgment came, a court judgment came saying that Mr. Antule was not involved or he did not do anything illegal. Antule himself was a barrister, and he raised this question. He said, "Who's going to return my these 20 years of my prime of my political career?" So there's a lot to do with the kind of judicial system we have. Justice delayed, justice denied kind of thing. A lot of things. So it's not. It's actually systemic failure that happens.
But this book, let's come back to the book again, The Nagarwala Scam. It's a thriller, and it's still like so many questions unanswered. I was just wondering, have you already got offers from the OTT platforms? It makes a very interesting thriller, right?
Yeah,
I think. And did you find definite answers, really? I mean, the security breach, the prime minister's voice being impersonated, and when you wrote this book now, I remember there was Rohinton Mystery's book on this, which was basically a fiction. Not really, it was based on this, but then this Nagarwala scam stayed with the Parsi community, right? And that was a fiction, but that book was banned from the Bombay University. I'm digressing a little, but then it was taken out of the syllabus because it ruffled the fragile egos of some politicians. But now when you write this book, what new answers did you find?
I think it's not there are no answers, unfortunately, that we, both of us as, authors, we have not been able to find an answer. But what we have done is we have gone very deep. Mr. Patra actually sat in National Archives for weeks together to go through that entire, the Commission of Inquiry report.
Yeah.
And it was very difficult, Naghma and Barkha, even to get access to these commissions of inquiry, reports. Again, it's all mismanagement. Of course, now things are being digitalized, so things would be better. So what we have done is we have gone through not hearsay or those kind of assumptions, but gone through the actual findings, police investigation, police diary, case records, people, testimonial. There are a lot of things that are very revealing. See, two prime ministers, one former prime minister Indira Gandhi and one serving prime minister Morarji Desai, both went before the commission and they spoke. And ministers also, and of course, so all of them today. Can you imagine, prime minister appearing before a commission of inquiry? It's quite unthinkable. So
these two people, the investigating officer as well as Nagarwala, the mysterious circumstances in which they died, that also raised many questions.
Yeah,
we
have given a full, devoted a full chapter on the D.K. Kashyap's death. It's a freak. It was a an accident. That's what the commission came to the conclusion.
The commission says that it was just an accident.
It was an accident.
It was just coincidence.
Just a coincidence. It's an accident.
Okay.
Just allow me to elaborate. Yeah. Because as Barkha was saying about that tragic incident that happened yesterday about that UPSC, this was also a very tragic thing. What had happened, Mr. Kashyap, who was an IPS officer, he had got married, he had gone. So he had made some kind of commitment to himself, what they call mannat. So he had gone to this place, Fatehpur Sikri. And from there he was returning. So a wedding procession was coming. And we see those wedding processions on the road. And there was, at that time, wedding processions used to have the tanga, ghoda tanga. So the 4 tangawalas, they were having a race. Okay. And in that, their horses, perhaps there was patakas or whatever, they went berserk. And they came in front of that car at a high speed. And then that accident took place. So, it is difficult.
Just that Tangawala and the horse, one horse, also died.
Also died. Okay.
So to look into, conspiracy, it's little, difficult if you look at the kind of circumstances. But then wedding procession on the street and Tangawala having a... Yeah. See, this is a very callous kind of, things that happen.
That's what makes it very interesting. But, I would really want all of you to read the book probably. It's very interesting. And just to look at what Rasheed and Prakash have already discussed. This was a scam that actually shocked people because remember it is 1971 and someone impersonating the prime minister, a very powerful prime minister, 60 lakh being taken out of the bank just at a phone call, and they take out 60 lakhs, and the person who's doing it is doing it with a feeling of patriotism, and that makes it great. Very more, Barkha, you want to add?
No, I was just thinking, what is the name of that guy who's in jail who also impersonated? He got what is it? Sukesh, who basically Sukesh Chandrasekhar. So he's this Chandrasekharan. So he's this conman who's now in jail. But he basically called everybody from business leaders to film stars to film stars. I think Jacqueline Fernandez is under the scanner for in the same case, and he could impersonate any voice. I'm not talking about 60 years ago. I'm talking about like last year. He could impersonate any voice, and in one of his phone calls, he pretends to be from the Home Minister's office, and you have a major business group actually coughing up hundreds of crores of money. Because they think the government wants it. So I'm saying this is...
Barkha, that officer, I mean the person in, Gujarati person in Kashmir?
Yes, that impersonator, correct, who said he's from the Prime Minister's office. So there was another guy who got like complete VIP access. He got caught. So did this guy. But the point is that they were... In Kashmir, the guy said, I'm from the Prime Minister's office, and he was able to get all kinds of VIP sort of access. But the Sukesh case is his name Sukesh? I'm having a Biden type amnesia moment. Like I cannot remember. I think his name is Sukesh. But anyway, the point is that
Sukesh, right? Yeah.
he was a master con man. Like he was able to actually extract hundreds of crores of money from I think what is their name? The guys who owned... Aditi Singh. What is the husband name? Malvinder and Shivinder. Yes, thank you. Really, I am having a Joe Biden moment. Anyway, so the point is that this is not unique. You know, this happened in the age of landlines and government banks, but it happens in different forms every day. And I would argue that tech has made it easier, not tougher. Like we may think, oh, that those were, you know, what times were they? A clerk just released money like that because, you know, someone said, I'm calling from Indira's office. Look at the scams that have happened now.
Yeah.
Like, can you really, with deep fakes and, you know, accent impersonations and, you know, how easy it is to actually find you today using Truecaller. Anybody can impersonate anybody.
It's actually much easier now than it was. What's shocking is it happened then with just a landline.
You should tell them. We are all very old. A lot of people may
Absolutely.
That time that Harshad Mehta came, Harshad Mehta had reportedly, had gone with a suitcase. And the issue there was... pardon me for being a little gross. The whole thing was with reporters, we get to know. So that time there was a film, Madhuri Dixit film had come, Choli ke piche kya hai? And the second thing was whether a suitcase can accommodate 1 crore rupee or not.
Rashid always has these interesting anecdotes and stories.
So the whole issue, it was a serious scam. Many of you have seen that OTT also about Harshad Mehta. Very serious scam. But what was that spin that was given? And the entire thing revolved around Narasimha Rao, whether Narasimha Rao, when the suitcase was presented to him, whether the suitcase could, carry, 1 crore rupee or not.
There's so many now we're talking about. I mean, I'm
Only 65 lakhs they could.
65 lakhs, yeah. But top of the mind, there's so many. There's Beaufort, there's Satyam, there's the Sukram, there is Telgi, there is Tehelka. I mean, the electoral bonds. Electoral bonds coming, I mean, in the present times. But right after independence, we've had a series actually, when we think of it, I'm sure on the people, there'll be many who will name many more. But, as we grow economically, the size of the scam, the economics of it, the money that exchanged hands, that exponentially grew. Scams have happened in all regimes and across time periods. But now, look at what is also happening now in electoral bonds. And we talk about what impact did it have on the voting patterns. Do you think, Prakash, this electoral bond and the SC order, after that, did it really affect how people voted for or against the BJP?
Honestly, I don't think so. It won't have any effect. Something else will happen. People will forget that.
Yeah. So amnesia, all the public is having.
Very short span of... Yeah.
Yeah.
So please, complete.
No.
No, I think most people didn't understand electoral bonds. I think if you ask regular people who are not in media or politics. They will say, oh, anyway, it's not like the prior way of that elections were funded was clean. That way was not clean. This way is not clean. Most of these scams, all scams, a lot of political scams have one common thread, and that thread is the financing of politics, right? Until you can actually find a way to fund politics in a way that is transparent, this is going to continue to manifest in some way or the other, because the quid pro quo suspicion that the bonds raised, the Supreme Court felt that there was a danger that there was a quid pro quo, but it's not like under the table there wasn't a quid pro quo. It wasn't like writing a check, there wasn't a quid pro quo. There are kinds and kinds of quid pro quos until you can actually clean up how politics is funded. And I don't think that that's going to get cleaned up till any government, it's not this government or that government, till government has a say in permissions, approvals, licenses, clearances. Till businesses need government to function, businesses will be pro-power. That is just it's the nature of politics, is the nature of business. And that is where I think most scams of any kind originate.
And there has hardly been also any recovery. It's the people's money. Look at the size of the scams that has grown, the economics of it, but hardly 2 to 3%, or I don't know how much. What's the recovery?
In
Yeah, you wanna
Nagarwala
say
case,
something?
the money recovered.
The
They
money
recovered the entire
recovered. Yeah, there it did.
Yeah.
There it did.
Actually, in your book, sorry, I'm giving away a little bit, but you write that the guy wanted to be caught.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
No, that is one interpretation.
Okay.
That is one interpretation that
Huh.
that he wanted to be caught.
Why?
Well, I don't agree with that theory
Okay,
that
but
he
why
wanted
was
to be
there a
caught.
theory?
I think my this thing is that he got that money and he didn't know what to do. That's it.
There are people like
No,
that.
so there are also other
It was a
theories
big
that-
crime. He
Ah.
got so much money
Ah.
and he didn't know what to do.
Was it just a simple crime, or was it also to do with, there are also theories about the Mukti Vahini, the Bangladesh
No,
wars,
that
the
Bangladesh-
covert operation?
No,
Right?
Bangladesh, this thing I don't believe. We haven't come across any paper that links that this money was meant for Bangladesh.
But it was quite discussed then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rasheed?
But Naghma, in a way, Nagarwala scam, there is a common thread in all scams. The scams happen, and of course, there are, there is a criminal streak, and there is a, malified intention, etc. But the opposition, opposition in the sense I'm saying the people who are opposed to the political establishment at that point, they have a very limited agenda. We are seeing, I'll start from the other way around, like the current Arvind Kejriwal and liquor scam. Whole idea is that if Kejriwal resigns, then this thing will
The
sort
scam
of
dies.
settle down. Same Narasimha Rao's time, we saw a lot of scams were there, one after another. Not just Harshad Mehta one, there was a Gold Star scam, that Lakhubai Patak Acharwala scam, all kind of fertilizer scam. Many scams were there, but the moment Mr. Rao was unseated, the opposition also, the opposition to Mr. Rao within the Congress and outside, they sort of, they settled, and nothing happened to those cases. One of the accused I saw was receiving Bharat Ratna on behalf of P.V. Narasimha Rao, but nobody talked about it. Anyway, that's a different thing. I don't want to speak from political position here. So this is a real root cause of problem. We saw in Bofors, Mr. V.P. Singh used to say, "Meri jeb mein wo Swiss bank ka account hai." All those things were said. And nothing happened. So this is something which is very unfortunate that the political parties, all political parties, Congress, BJP, all other political parties, regional parties, they have a very limited agenda to unseat those who are in power and then just forget about it.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll go across to your audience too. They have many questions and your observations. But before that, Barkha, would you like to add to that? One feels that it's just like a political vendetta. The purpose is that you bring down a government and then that's it. The scam dies. And for example, the liquor case now, I'm not really commenting that there was no scam as such, but will it really reach some kind of conclusion, or is it just political vendetta and it'll die down like many other scams do?
There's no one answer. Because, for example, if you see Maharashtra, I think the BJP's own cadre was quite upset at Ajit Pawar's induction because, the worker had targeted Ajit Pawar in the irrigation scam. And I think for the BJP, Maharashtra didn't work well at all. For Kejriwal, we don't know the answer yet because in the Lok Sabha, certainly there was no sympathy for him. So people did not perceive that this was vendetta. But equally, in the local elections of Delhi, he may be very popular, which goes to my original argument that I am not convinced that corruption is an electoral issue
anymore.
I think by itself. I think people will couple it with, okay, how is they're all the same. So if they're all the same, let me see what's the governance record, what's the policy record, what is the ease of my life, how much is this person interfering in my personal space, how is this impacting me? Because I don't think that the voter believes that politics is clean. If you ask anybody in this room, is politics clean? I don't think anybody believes that politics is clean, or that clean money, or the concept of clean money financing politics exists. I don't think anybody believes this. Now, the moment you internalize that, you're not going to vote. You may recognize the scam, you may change your mind about somebody, but I don't think by itself it's a huge voting issue.
Yeah, so we don't vote anymore on corruption.
See, all those people who are
No,
there.
do you believe there was a scam?
No, I do not.
Like
I'm
you-
not in a
you- I-
position.
no, but you
No,
can't ask
the
me.
point,
Answer
I'm
the
making a
question.
limited thing that the kind of the theme song of today's, evening has been, see, corruption in high places, it makes very little or no impact. Similarly, sir, in the context of exit poll findings or whether they were motivated, driven by market or political party or something, it makes no difference at all. Another election, you will see in this coming Maharashtra and
exit polls are the
Haryana
same
election,
people.
फिर वही दिन लाया हूँ.
Corruption issues.
When did we ever vote on corruption issues?
These are really just.
Bofors, I guess. Bofors
Yeah.
is the closest last issue, and the UPA second term. But the UPA second term looks like they fell because of allegations of corruption. But actually, they fell because of jaded communication, poor policy making, lack of, assertiveness, and ironically, the India Against Corruption movement that spawned a party, the leader of which today is in jail on allegations of corruption. Now, I think in that sentence you can understand why no scams actually shake India.
Corruption is no longer an issue. It's actually, like you said, I totally agree. It's hardly an issue for people now. It's hardly, but people actually see, does it really affect my life? How does it matter? And everybody's corrupt. All the political parties are the same, right? So can I now open it also to the audience and ask if any of you would like to ask a question or have any observation or, yeah, please, you have the mic in the audience.
Anyone?
In the meantime, and people thinking of what exactly are their observations
No, I
and
think that
what do they think? Is anyone
I have a
ready?
question
Yeah.
for the team panel. Journalists were always supposed to be overboard, right? I mean, this current elections itself, I mean, the ratings were a bit poor, and there seemed to be a lot of controversy around how come every channel got the ratings wrong. Any comments on the fact that is journalism, corruption coming into journalism in a big way now?
Do you mean the exit polls?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Barkha, you want?
Why am I?
We are leader now.
Look, journalism, we can't sit here and say that journalists are all saints,
Yeah.
right? Every profession, politics, business, journalism, law, I don't know, sports, every institution is open to corrosion, and every institution has some good people, some not so good people, and some institutional problems. The institutional problems, and this is a problem of television. I don't think it's a problem, I used to be in television, I'm in digital now, so it's not my problem anymore. But television struggles with how to compete with new forms of consumption. So if we're all watching content on our phones, if we get our news now from the social platforms we follow, Twitter, WhatsApp, YouTube, whatever, it's like really old people who sit in front of a TV set anymore is the problem that TV deals with. So now they have a broken revenue model. They're spending so much. Other people with new technology are able to do what TV does for a fraction of. I'm giving you this long answer to explain the context. So elections are the one time where I think they think that their scale really matters. Like they have something that the independent journalists don't. And exit polls have been turned into a kind of form of entertainment. That
Or
people,
a scam.
I
Or
don't
a
know.
scam.
I don't know about that. I don't
Entertainment.
know. I'm not sure. I know the opposition made that allegation, but I don't know what it means because I don't understand the stock markets enough. Those of you who do, please explain it to us. But the allegation seems to be that it was to drive up the markets and create a certain kind of buying and selling, bases the sentiment, which they then knew to be false. My problem with that argument is that anyone who gets it so wrong is risking their professional reputation on the line. Now, either we are saying they're ready to do that for some bucks.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but
What?
see, all those people who are
No,
players.
do you believe there was a scam?
No, I don't know.
Like
I'm not in a
I-
position.
no, but you
No,
can't
no.
ask
The
the
point,
question to
I'm
answer
making
the
a limited thing that the kind of the theme song of today's evening has been, see, corruption in high places, it makes very little or no impact. Similarly, sir, in the context of exit poll findings or whether they were motivated, driven by market or political party or something, it makes no difference at all. Another election, you will see in this coming Maharashtra and
exit polls with the
Haryana
same
election,
people.
फिर वही दिल लाया हूँ.
And also, like you said, that their professional reputation is at stake, but do they
but I
really
think
care
Rasheed
about
is
it?
correct. No, I think Rasheed is correct that everybody counts on short public memory. And the fact that people are generally bored and they'll watch it. Whether they take
And
it
the
seriously or
exit
not.
polls are a big, big entertainment.
They
Also
are.
for the anchors.
They are. Let's face it, they are.
It is. It's basically show time. So, anyone else? Yeah, please.
Thanks. Hi, good evening. My question is for the authors. As I understand, a scam that happened 50 plus years back, 100 odd crores, say 200 crores in today's terms, probably not the biggest scams in terms of money or whatever. What sets this scam apart? Why this one that you picked up? And why does this story needs to be told now?
Thank you for asking this question. Actually, fundamentally, this is a very well, documented scam. For instance, if you look at, the Bofors, there is no, so to say, commission of inquiry or, their own commission's findings that were presented, in a documented way to the government. This was a scam that the culprit was caught, money was recovered, there was a trial, and there was, of course, a commission appointed by the next government, that being Janata Party government against Indira Gandhi. And the commission went through in a very meticulous way, in a very professional manner. All the findings came out. But again, that comes, so that is why we want to present this case as a kind of study that of a very authentic account of corruption in high place, where everything was there. But political class, just because they had already unseated Indira Gandhi, so that objective in a way was achieved, though it had to do with emergency access and a lot of other issues. And by the time this the commission of inquiry report came in, Mr. Desai's government itself was tottering. As you know, there was a Charan Singh revolted, and there was an alternative government, and Indira Gandhi was supporting that Charan Singh government. So there was a lot of politics was at play. What was the bureaucratic observation at the end of the day?
No, they closed the case finally.
No, what was that thing about the cabinet secretary and all the note that was written?
No, they wrote saying that no action is to be taken, and the file was closed.
So, no action was taken, file was closed, and you both of you were writing.
This was a bureaucratic. I mean, the people who are supposed to protect the system. So that observation was there.
So it's now conclusive. I mean, the case is closed. And also in your book, you found that you got the answers and it's now no more controversies and no conspiracy theories, right?
No. So controversies are there, but there's nobody, there's no stakeholder.
There's no stakeholder now. So yeah, the complete story is out there, and that's how this Nagarwala Scam. Also, a lot of us have forgotten about it, and it was good to kind of revisit. Any other questions here?
Yeah, I would like to ask a question.
Yeah.
Now, we all agree, of course, that elections are dirty business. It's corruption, black money, all the way, whatever it is. An observation is that democracy is the cause of this. Now, let's compare us with US. Maybe it's more sophisticated there, but there's the gun lobbies, tobacco lobbies, farmer lobbies, they're all funding the elections. So, actually, democracy which we treasure so much, is largely responsible for corruption in these countries, wherever you are. I'm sure it's the same in all other democratic countries. What's your take on that?
Any of us?
You are the authors. You have to answer the questions.
So who do you want to answer? To the authors?
Anybody?
Yeah.
This is a democracy, not a dictatorship.
and
You
it-
answer first.
Sir, the point taken. You see, you're right. You have a valid point. But the difference between, as I see it, in whether it's the U.S. or Great Britain or many democracies in Western Europe, these things are very well documented. Here we have a country where lobbying is not permitted. In the U.S., you have to declare. If a senator or if a congressman or whoever is the person is, and the kind of donation the corporates make, everything is above board. Corruption takes place, but it's no who's doing what. Here it is like you'll be surprised, sir, that in political parties the political functionaries do not take salary. Now, how do they work? If in the entire Congress party, if there are 200 functionaries, none of them get a salary. And same is the case with BJP, same is the case with all political parties. So therefore, I am saying that this is a kind of, corrupt system is there at the institutional level. जैसे नहीं ये तो हम देश सेवा का काम कर रहे हैं.
No, I don't actually agree, because I'm a big believer in democracy being, it's not a perfect system, but it's still the best one we have, in my opinion. And I believe that it's about growing deep roots for your institutions. That is something we haven't done very well. We've done a lot. The way our elections are run and managed, the size of our country, the equality of the vote, fabulous. What is not so fabulous is the way the institutions of democracy are able to bend. So, for example, if you look at United Kingdom, the fact is that Boris Johnson's downfall began because when he had a lockdown for the rest of the country, he had a party in his office where they had wine, right? And they had music and dance. He lost his job as the prime minister of a country because the people of the country said, why should there be one rule for you and one rule for us? If we are in lockdown and we can't meet our loved ones who are dying, who are you to have a party on your... Now, by Indian standards, like, ठीक है, काम कर रहा है बेचारा, उसने एक छोटी सी पार्टी करने क्या फर्क पड़ता है? Or the press, right? The fact is that in America, late night comedy will show you that nobody is above being made a joke about. Not Trump, not Kamala Harris, not Biden, right? You can't do those things here. Our institutions haven't grown deep roots. Democracy is not the problem. It is what we've done with the institutions that are supposed to make the democracy work between the elections. So I think we do very well at elections. I don't think we do so well at democracy between elections, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, but Barkha, that's excellent. But like somebody said,
Yes.
democracy is a big mess, but it's the best mess to be in.
Yeah. Correct.
Right.
Correct.
But at the same time, I just want to, Mr. Kidwai, if you Google, like you said, everything is institutionalized in the US. No, not really. There are citizens organizations who take a lot of contributions and they're not accounted for. If you go, I'm forgetting the name of that.
The PACs.
Possibly. And so, okay. So it's not exactly as institutionalized as, of course, much ahead of India. I mean, there's no comparison. But problem is there, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Anyone else?
Here.
I think these scams that we talk about are, in my view, just a tip of the iceberg. That's what we see. That's what they get found out. And we say, oh, this is a scam and this person is responsible. Some people go to jail. Most people go scot-free. But I think there's as in an iceberg, there's a large part of it hidden, which we don't see. 95% of it don't see. And we see that in, when we look at the budget, for example, 45 lakh crore is getting spent every year by the government. And this is central government. Then you look at railways, 2.5 lakh crore every year gets spent. And you look at all the state governments that you can add up, and the figure is mind-boggling. And then you look at, what we are surrounded with in terms of municipality, water logging, you look at hospitals. where does the comment man, we can, of course, the people sitting here can go to all the big hospitals, the corporate hospitals, private equity is buying up crazily all these big hospitals. We can go to them and get the best in care. What about the rest? And we see that that's the real state of corruption that, we talk about. That's the real scam. It's not that money is not getting spent in hospitals. Money is getting spent every year. But it's not getting spent on the hospital. Maybe a small percentage filters through. It's like what Rajiv Gandhi very famously said, only 10 paisa really goes out of 1 rupee to what is intended. I think nothing has changed from there.
Yes, absolutely.
Nothing has changed from there. And I think that's possibly the root cause. And we've sort of accepted it.
That's right.
We've accepted it. That's the way it will be. That's the way the hospitals will be. Money. We hear the budget, but we don't listen to it, actually.
Correct.
You're saying, what the hell is happening with that money? What is the hospital allocation and what happened to it,
Yeah.
We don't understand it. And there is no change process that is driving it. Neither the media, nor the journalists, nobody cares about
Nor
it.
the people.
Nor the people.
Yeah.
So I think, we just accept it, and then you have these things happen. What happened yesterday was not an isolation. We've seen that happen in Rajkot, the amusement center, many people died, right? We've seen that happen in Gujarat, where that bridge collapsed and that watch company had the maintenance of it.
Morbi, yeah.
It just keeps repeating itself, and we see it every day in the annual budgets. So the railways is in a, we can talk of Vande Bharat. There are 52 Vande Bharats. That's it. 1% of population is served by them, and the rest of the railways is in complete mess. But that's because that's a scam going on, that's a scam. And I think that's the cumulative scam which is going on here.
No, you're very right. We agree. I think most of us, we agree.
Very well
Yeah,
said.
very well. Yeah, these are observations and right. I mean, some of the scams, we name them and these are the scams, but then the scams going on every day. Like she mentioned right in the beginning of this basement flooding right here in Delhi in one of the oldest higher study circles. And it's not an isolated case. So many of them. And the train accidents, and we talk of Morbi happened. We were all shocked. But then it goes on. It doesn't end, right?
Even in this Pooja Khetkar
Yeah.
case, the best hospital of India that it is toughest to get admission to, which is the All India Medical Institute, a panel of AIMS certified her disability.
Yeah.
So there is, the problem is not democracy. The problem is not too much democracy. The problem is too little democracy, because the institutions don't work as they're meant to. That is the argument I am making.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. Anyone else here
Do we have
who has a
anyone else here?
question, or do we have time for more?
Yeah, we do have time.
Okay.
So, in case anyone else? Just.
Okay.
ये तुम तो सारा क्वेश्चंस रिफ्लेक्ट कर रहे हो, खुद आंसर नहीं कर रहे। हाँ, now Naghma will answer.
I'll ask the authors,
Thank you.
was there a,
Finally, the question was the author.
after the Reddy Commission's report, you think there was a closure for the Parsi community?
Closure
Sense
for
of
the Parsi
closure.
community after the
Sense
Reddy
of closure
Commission.
for the Parsi community. It ruffled a lot of feathers.
No, I don't think so.
No?
Short
Rashid, do you want to?
Yeah. No,
Also,
yes,
when you know-
Rajiv, that, no, was there a sense of closure? No, I don't think so. I think they remain quite affected by it because they're very hardworking, law-abiding. Generally, this is a perception, and this came as a kind of, shock. Of course, Indira Gandhi's political opponents also tried to give a spin that because Feroz Gandhi was a Parsi and this Nagarwala is a Parsi. I think it did affect a lot of people. And by the way, book has mentioned this. Nagarwala had many friends who were who were very powerful. When this the police went to nab Nagarwala at that Parsi Dharamshala at this Bahadur Shah Zafar Marg, a call was made to the police commissioner.
Yeah.
The chief secretary or police commissioner, and then the DIG was SP was that Mr. Rosha was informed, and Mr. Rosha said no, we have evidence and we are acting against him because it was a small community, so it did affect them.
Yeah, because the book was written by Rohinton Mistry in 91. Film was made in 98.
We don't.
this
So it
carried
stayed
on.
with them.
No, that is a fiction, Rohinton Mysteries. But this is.
See, the character of Gustad Noble is
Yeah.
based on Nagarwala.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was based on that. It also shows that it was kind of.
It was a fiction.
stayed with-
He has
yeah,
taken
yeah.
basic facts and
Yeah.
has written a novel.
Yeah.
Like there's another
Yeah.
novel by R.L. Gauba, which is closer to Rohinton Mystery's novel. So, but when Gauba was summoned by the Reddy Commission, he admitted, he said 80% fiction, 20% facts. So, what do you say? So, I take Rohinton, his work as a work of fiction.
Absolutely.
Not as...
Yeah, work of fiction. But what he's trying to say, and what I think that it probably stayed with the people, and this is how that fiction also probably didn't want to... Yeah. Sure, yeah. Any other questions for the authors? Or just an observation that you have on the state of corruption here. There's some journalists also sitting in the audience, I can see. And yeah, please.
Before 2014, we always heard about CAG and PSE. So, what's the role of CAG and PSE right now?
This, Rasheed, you have to answer. And Lokpal.
Yeah, that's the thing. When we say this, it looks as if we are against a political system or establishment, but this has been a very unfortunate part that the institutions, the framers of constitution had very thoughtfully, they had thought of, separation of power and sense of accountability. Everything was there, but then it is to be practiced and it is to be observed, and that is what we see in case of CAG and PSC and various other institutions you're talking about. It's very unfortunate, but you see, ultimately it is voter who has the ability to pressurize governments and institutions into it. We can just talk about it, highlight it. I think in that count, media is doing some work.
I don't know how many of them will agree with this. Most of the time I go anywhere, the question is the media is not doing the work. The media is supposed to.
Media is not television, no?
Media, not just, clearly not anymore. Media is, of course, not just television, not for a while, not for this generation, the younger generation. It's all, you have the power in your hands, on your phones, and that's how people watch. But yeah, people expect media to be also a lot of times the MCD as well, and looking at the water logging and everything else. But yes, of course, it's the duty to highlight. Any other questions? Right at the back there, can we pass the mic, please?
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is for the authors. I understand that your book is about the politics, but, I think your view of the scam and the corruption is pretty limited, because most of the scams that you have spoken about, they just come from the corporates. Nobody's talking about the scams that's happening in the IPOs or the companies, how the companies are rigging the contracts. Because if the companies are not rigging the contracts, they don't need to pay electoral bonds, money for that. So what's your take on that? You can paint the politicians in all the colors that you want, black, blue, brown, whatever. But the real crux of the corruption that's happening in this country and the countries all over the world, it has to do a lot with the corporates, because they are the ones in the end of the day who are making most of the money by these corruptions, not the politicians. They're getting the crumbs.
Okay.
Maybe $1 billion here and there. That's crumb. Even if you think about where we have the whole GDP size of India, which is in trillions today. What's your take on that? Yeah.
So you...
I just include the startup ecosystem in it. Mothers of all scams are taking place there. And some have fallen like nine pins, and some more people will fall. So what about that?
All right. So basically, can you separate, I would add to that, can you separate the corporates and the politicians or the politics?
Yeah, look, essentially we are fundamentally, Mr. Patra and me, and would include Barkha, and we are all sort of, political journalists. This is some economic journalists would answer your question in a more appropriate way. As I see it, you see, a role of government is something that is of accountability, and this is documented through elections, parliament, Constitution of India. When we have this kind of economic liberalization where, profit or greed or whatever you wanted, this is unlimited. Of course, role of government is very important because the government is supposed to regulate if there is some wrongdoings happening in that stock change or in IPO or something. But just because, more people are making money and this, I think it is very difficult to, cap it and bring it into the ambit of law. Barkha, what do you say?
This is not my domain expertise. And I think that's the problem, that I think we are essentially all either, conflict reporters, political journalists. We're not exactly business journalists. But I think there are examples. Rajat Gupta, there are all of these insider trading, global examples. But I don't know. So many companies that have closed down because of scams. Yes Bank, Satyam, either closed down, leadership has changed. So, but again, it all comes down to money, right? It all comes down to governance of some kind, either corporate governance or political governance. I don't know a third kind of scam. Is there a third
You know,
kind of scam?
if you think about it, where do you think the money is coming for the electoral bonds? It's
From
coming from the companies,
corporates.
corporates, exactly. So they are the crux of the corruption.
But,
Not the politicians.
but let's push that further. Why are corporates corrupt? Let's for a moment go further with this. Mostly because they're scared, or they think that they can't get their job done without lining somebody's pocket. Why does small or big corruption? Okay, so corruption can occur for two reasons: greed and fear. Right? So greed is a different order of a scam, and fear is, I mean, I'm not saying there's a moral difference between the two. I'm just analyzing that I think these are the two impulses from which corporates, like, there can be, oh, give me 500 rupees, I'll push your file. And they can be, give me 500 crore rupees because I'm greedy. Or they can be, I'll give you 10 crores, but because I have a 500 crore business at stake and I know that I'm not going to get the approval without it. So my point is, the only point I'm making is that big government, the state has a role in healthcare, in education, in the air we breathe, in climate change. But the state should not have a role in approving somebody's license to do their business. Because the moment there's too much government in those spaces, there will be corruption. That's my view.
And Barkha, just to add this, what the gentleman is saying, a chief minister, I remember a friend of mine became a chief minister, and he told me, he said, you know, when I became chief minister, so senior bureaucrat told him, he said, look, you know, there are three ways of this thing, sort of, you know, raising money. One is jabrana, I mean, forcefully, harjana, taxation, you think, and nazrana. This is a presentation. So he said, go for Nazrana. That's so all those things we are talking about, electoral bond and corporate corruption, is all Nazrana.
Anyone else? Yes.
Jabrana, Harjana, and Nazrana.
So, you know, I see print journalists and television journalists. So I want to ask this, that we are maybe morally flexible when it comes to financial scams. But we get very offended if we see something like, let's say, a chief minister making a junior officer pick up the chappals, or something like the defense minister changing his clothes before rushing to the scene of tragedy. Now, is there a visual element to it, that we are okay with something happening in files, but if we see a visual impact, then we get very offended? Print and television difference, I would like to.
No, correct. Yeah.
I mean, sorry, Naghma, you answer this.
I'm
you have
not
not answered any questions.
I'm supposed to ask you questions. No, but I agree with Anjali. I think because, like we say, the visuals are very strong and visuals do make an impact. So when we just hear about corruption, we are kind of not that enraged. But we see the visuals, it enrages us a lot more.
I will just add to that by saying something we may not all like, because we're all privileged in this country. Class matters. Things move in India when it's close to home of our class, right? It's sad, but it's true that when was the last time the life of a really poor person changed policy? I don't want to be competitive about suffering, but the fact is that whether it's sexual violence, whether it's a UPSC scam, whether it's NEET, whether it's the oxygen running out in COVID's second wave, we were impacted and then we reacted. It was much like, I remember traveling across India during both waves of COVID. And in the first wave, when I was walking with migrant workers who were walking home barefoot, walking up to 1,000 kilometers to reach home because they had no way to live in the cities, it was so difficult for me to create audience interest in that story because it didn't impact people like us. Now, yes, that calls upon you to tell a better story. I'm not making an excuse. I think our challenge is we're only as good as our ability to make our storytelling have an impact on people, not directly by it. So to some extent, it's also poor storytelling if your story is not making a difference. But the fact is that when the oxygen ran out and we were all impacted by it, it was much easier to get your audience to connect to you. So please also understand we're living in an age of fragmented audience consumption. And I have this line where I think that Indian media has lived through three tyrannies. So we lived through the age where the visual media was owned by government, which was the age of Doordarshan. Then we went into the age of private television. So there's the tyranny of the state, state-owned media. Then there's the tyranny of the market. So when we were in private television, your advertisers would only come to you if you had ratings. And if you think we're all free now, we're now in the tyranny of the algorithm. Because in the digital space, I can see in real time, when I put out a story on my digital platform, how many people are watching it. And I'm sitting there for the next, like you see it, like it's just, like at least when I was in television, I couldn't see it. In digital, you can just see it right there. Are you being watched, not watched? So I'm just saying that the visual really matters, but class matters. And the fact that our audience is getting broken into smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So somebody will say, "Ye mera target audience nahi hai."
It's also
It's
the
become like
audience.
sabun bechna. Ye mera target audience nahi hai, to main iski baat hi nahi karunga. I will not talk about this because it's not in my TG. So the point is, it goes back to what the gentleman there said about, is democracy the problem? No. The problem is the institutions of democracy that are meant to work between elections, we haven't done as well as those as we have done in conducting elections. Where is our BBC? Where is it? It just doesn't exist. So you can't do public interest journalism. You can only do the journalism that your audience is willing to watch or pay for. It's a genuine problem.
So how much pressure does that really put on someone like you? But I mean, you're talking about when you was in TV, like, we're in TV and the TRPs probably do not matter, but it does matter with advertisers coming to you. But when you're doing your own thing and when you can see who's watching, the pressure to create the content when someone can watch, and does that affect your storytelling?
So listen, I mean, I'm not going to lie and say it has no impact on me, but I think the way I've tried to deal with it is to say that I will do 3 kinds of content. I will do the content I believe in irrespective. I will do that irrespective, okay? Like, if nobody watches it, if only my cat watches it, that's okay. But I believe in it, I will do it. So I call that impact journalism, that you do because you believe that this matters to the public. It has an impact. So you do it. And then you do some content because it gets you revenue. You do some content because it gets you eyeballs. And there's nothing wrong in it. In all legacy media, in newspapers and television, there was always you always were taught at journalism school about the light and shadow of content. You do something because it's important. You do something because it entertains. You do something because the advertisers want it. And you survive in the way that you never give up you can't give up the first. If you give up the first, if you stop doing the first, I think, and you only do the other 2, then there's a problem. But I don't think everyone's so judgy about media. Even I'm very judgy about media. But then please support the media you believe in. But nobody wants to support any media. You all want to consume your content via influencers and you want to bitch non-stop about media. Then nobody's winning then, no? So,
Correct. Yeah, I suppose the audience, you choose who to watch and what to watch, and that also kind of impacts big time what is the content that's being created, right?
And news business is not, in that sense, is not very profitable.
Yeah.
But most owners, they want that. And remember, all the media practitioners, they are all salaried employees mostly.
Of course.
I remember one, Hindi newspaper owner had once, he spoke in front of me. He said, "देखिए, मेरा तो एक ही बस सपना रहता है कि ठंडी उछालूं तो रुपया गिरे."
Oops. Trust you to come up with all those. Yeah. So, yeah, of course, there are compulsions. Do we have one more questions, or
we can have one last question?
One last question, yeah.
Anyone here? Yes, please.
Okay.
Barkha, this is a personal question.
Oh.
What drives you to cross India during elections? I mean, I watch Mojo Story very closely.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yes. And it's amazing. I mean, how you have, where do you get this energy from?
I actually still love being a journalist. That is actually what it is. And it's like, you asked me so the context is that I drove from Kanyakumari to Kashmir with a series called The Dhabas of Democracy during the elections. And the idea was that at the intersection of food and culture and history, but giving a voice to ordinary people, can you cover elections in that way? And he's asking me, how after 30 years of being a journalist, why am I still excited about it? Yeah, I think the energy comes because I was telling somebody it's 25 years of Kargil, and I had taken out all of my old footage. For those of you who don't know, Kargil was a war that happened in 1999 between India and Pakistan. I'm assuming some people weren't born then, so I'm explaining this. And I covered it from the front line, and I was telling the story. I used a lot of my archival footage on Mojo Story, and I was recounting the story on camera, and I said, you know, I had to really fight to go and cover the war. And I first had to convince NDTV, then I had to convince the army. There were no women in the military then in forward posts. So how did you convince them? So I said, you know, I couldn't sleep at night because I so badly wanted to be there. So I always say to people that if it doesn't give you a stomachache, you're not meant for this profession, because this profession, it doesn't have great pay. It doesn't have structured hours. The only way you can shine in it is if you love it. And the thing is, even though I can see it kind of dying in front of my eyes like a slow train wreck, while it's still there, I love it. I love it. So my energy comes from there. I genuinely love it.
Well, thank you so much.
Right.
You know, generally,
Right.
tireless, and it's just the passion that drives you. So thank you so much. Thank you all for being here and for all those questions and observations. And you know, summing up, do read the Nagarwala Scam, Rasheed and Patra's book. And you will get to be given you the teaser, but there are many more interesting details in the book. So thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you, Naghma.
Thanks.